2, 3, 4, 5. All right, guys, so today I'm bringing you a little bit of an abstract thing. A lot of my lessons lately, oh, I'm sorry, I should introduce myself. Nate, 80/20 drummer, right? You guys get it? Okay, cool. So usually I bring you a little bit more practical things like actual pieces of licks you might use in real life that you can literally take and apply verbatim. Today I'm doing a little more conceptual thing inspired by an exercise my buddy Campbell shared. And essentially the idea of the exercise was just you're playing paradiddles and you go up in subdivisions. You start with 4, then you go to quintuplets, sextuplets, septuplets, octuplets, etc. And naturally I only got as high as the sextuplets because I was like, well, I can't conceptualize sextuplets at all. So I realized that's a real weakness in my playing. And to make matters worse, my buddy Joel Turcotte, at Joel Turcotte, T-E-R-C-O-T-T-E, on Instagram is an absolute wizard with quintuplets. So I've been falling hopelessly behind, pursuing other stuff. He's like a black belt at the quintuplets now. But I wanted to give myself a little bit of a crash course into this. So let's first start out with the challenge. The challenge is you have the metronome on quarters, and you need to cleanly go up in subdivisions. So without the metronome, it's easy, right? Oh, I forgot to tell you the other thing. You can't just go. You have to keep the 4-note groups, which is especially sinister, right? So right away, you're in this situation where you're playing quintuplets with 4-note groups superimposed over that. And if that seems abstract to you guys, it's even more abstract to me. But I thought about an easier way to do this. So let me take you through it step by step. I made a private video for the guys in the Facebook group, and that's what inspired me to make this. Starting with why you might want to be able to do this, and I'll tell you 2 reasons. Number 1, because you'll think in crazy ideas that even if they don't get you fired from a gig, are just going to open up your phrasing a ton. And number 2, because quintuplets are like the unexplored territory of drums and rhythm. Like not very many people have gotten into them yet, and they give you some weird implied metric modulations you can do. It's like the 4th dimension, or the 5th dimension, I should say. So if that's not convincing enough to you guys, how fly you'll sound doing this lick when you're nailing it should be. So where do we start? Initially, I wanted to do 2 things. Number 1, I wanted to keep the metronome beat with my foot. So 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's because it's easier to fudge if you're just sitting at a practice pad listening to the metronome. But I wanted to make sure there was no room for me to cheat, so I'm keeping it with part of my body. Besides, you're sitting at a kit practicing this. Why not avail yourself of it? The other thing I did was, instead of simply accenting the beginnings of the paradiddles, I wanted to orchestrate those to the hats. That's reminiscent of something in my course. Here, it's both to avail ourselves of the orchestration possibilities of the kit and also to hear them better. So now let me show you what that would sound like if we just did the straight paradiddles, quintuplets, and then sextuplets. So 3, 4. Right, so that's hard enough. You kind of have to think of the quintuplets as halfway between the sextuplets and the 16ths. But to make matters even worse, as I said, you're doing 4-note groups. So I was like, wow, 4-note groups over quintuplets. Like, how does anyone do that? But then I realized it's pretty common if you're playing 5, like, and you're playing 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5. So essentially you're playing 5/8 with your foot, but you're playing 5/4 with your hands. So 4, 5. So that was 5/4 with the right hand and 5/8 with the feet. I realized, what am I doing when I'm playing 5/4 over 5/8? I'm essentially playing 4 16th note groups with the rhythm. So when essentially you're cycling. What is that also? That's 4 note groups over 5. So that's the middle section of this thing we're trying to get to. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've essentially got the difficult part. Now we need to do the easy part and just work on the modulations. So I practiced from 4 to 5 and from 6 to 5. So let's start with 4. 3, 4. Right? And then 6 cycles over the 4 like this. 3, 4. So that's something you'll be more familiar with. And this whole tension between 6 and 4 is something that you see a lot of in Chris Dave's music. I'll have a lesson about cool things you can do with that pretty soon. Not going to do it. I was tempted. I'm not going to do it. I'm kicking the addiction. So transitioning from 5 to 6. So let's start with the 5-note home beat. So we're actually going to count this off in 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Got it? So lastly, we're going to start with the 5, go down to the 4, and then come up to the 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's really just the beginning of the story, because I now need to figure out how to go from the sextuplets to the septuplets. But I assume with the 7 it's going to be the same thing, where you're giving yourself a way to think of the 7 as the home base and then the 4 cycling over the top of that. And eventually when you do all this gear shifting with your brain, you're just going to start to feel like I'm in 5 land now, I'm in 7 land now. And the interrelationships between the two will become instinctive. And that's where we're trying to get. So yeah, this is a brain bender, which hopefully will add just some broadness to your playing and the way you think of rhythm. Dudes, if you've enjoyed this lesson and you'd like something a lot more simple and straightforward that'll help your playing, something that's like 6 to 9 months of studying with me, all for around the price of one lesson, all videoed and transcribed, I recommend you check out my flagship product, the 80/20 coaching course. And if you'd like a gateway drug to that, something completely free, you can click on the link below the video player and you'll get my 3 free videos, which will make you better in the next 3 weeks than you've gotten in the last 6 months. It's unlike these sort of abstract lessons. It's very concrete, it's very easily applicable, and you'll see the results right away. So guys, hope you enjoyed this one. Thanks for bearing with me through the abstractions. Be back very soon with another lesson of the week. See you.